what it is. Only the second time that I've had this sort of role with another member of staff, you know, was I any good? You know, as a coach, you know, how did I do?
Well, I'd sort of really like to start off by saying that, you know, I've been through this process a couple of times already, but again, it's been really informative and useful for me in a purely selfish way, certainly in terms of observing a lesson and in observing you doing the coaching session. I thought there were lots of really interesting points that came out of the whole discussion. But I'm going to kick off with a sort of pretty predictable question for you, David. I mean, did you think that was a successful coaching session?
Well, I enjoyed the process because I enjoy discussing issues around involving teaching.
I felt you were very clear in sort of getting Jenny to articulate what her sort of main aims were behind the whole process, you know, in terms of looking at what was to be gained from the observation and then the coaching session. Do you feel that after having gone through that process, do you feel that you did achieve that objective?
Jenny it appears to me, has walked away with one concrete thing that she is going to do, yes, which isn't going to solve the problem, but it's going to begin to address the problem, which is talk to them about it. Right. You know, talk to them about me as the teacher, talk to them about them as the students. And, you know, between you and me, if it was me, I think that's what I would be doing. So it's not that she's ended up doing something that I suggested, because I didn't suggest it. Well, at least I think I half suggested it. But it's for Jenny to decide whether it's what she wants to do, and I get the impression that that's the case. I honestly believe, from my tentative sort of introductions to coaching, that it could be the one thing that may well open up the culture of the school, that people being in your lessons won't be seen as a threatening thing where people are making judgments on others, and in fact what it will be an opportunity to literally get to know your colleagues more, pick up ideas for your own teaching, and also be a vehicle through which other people can improve their own practice. So I'm very enthusiastic about it.
And it does make you reflect on what you're doing. Like today here, when I was chatting to David and he was making me think about my role within that group, I mean, I realised how much my personality has an impact on young people.
Coaching also works as a very powerful support for leadership. What follows is a reconstruction of a real-life case.
My first year of headship I really enjoyed, because I hadn't got a clue if I was doing the right thing or the wrong thing. I just enjoyed being there. It was great. The second year was a really dark time for me. I could see that things weren't going right, and I felt that the way things had to go, the direction that they had to go in, was going to be just too hard. It got to the point where I thought it was all down to me, that I was damaging the school. It was a very stressful time for me. I was going to be ill, and frankly, coaching helped me not go there. I started as head in April. There had been 2 deputies. One was off long-term sick, and the other had resigned in a huff shortly before. They had had an Ofsted in March, and if I'm honest, and as the ex-head told me later on, they had simply wanted to keep the staff sweet during the Ofsted. So they had rushed people up onto the senior team. It was a lovely place to be, but it was like the Brigadoon of secondary schools in the area. It didn't seem to have any relation to other schools in the borough or nationally. It was as though they just sort of pulled up the drawbridge and sealed themselves off. It was a bit like going back in time about 15 or 20 years. I inherited a very interesting senior team. They had all been in the school at least 20 years. Some of them had been there over 30 years. The team had been there so long that they were not prepared to challenge the staff. They didn't feel comfortable holding anyone to account. So I think the problem started at both ends of the spectrum, really, the classroom teacher and me. I wasn't taking time to be reflective enough, to be strategic, but then I hadn't been trained to do that either. People were very demotivated and they didn't want to change. They would say, sod it, what's the point? Then I got our results and I was very emotionally upset. I felt that I must be doing something wrong, and I was definitely on the point of resigning.
What with feeling unwell, being close to packing in her job, and the disastrous exam results, she turned in desperation to a professional coach.
I was looking for somebody to help us, the senior team, be more effective leaders. I'd read a bit about coaching, but this convinced me. He said that in some schools there had been a real reluctance to take on anything that had had a business model, but I said that didn't bother me. I thought there was something very refreshing about having a professional dialogue. And there must be management and leadership issues that cut right across the professions.
Well, let's try and establish.
In the coaching sessions, they tease out problematic behaviours in the management team, like lack of honesty, trust, mutual support and strategic thinking.
I think I'd like to feel that all the effort that people are putting in is actually getting us somewhere.
Okay, it's back to that issue we've talked about before about people taking responsibility for themselves and being more truly accountable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, talk to me a little bit then about your current frustrations within the team about these issues as you see them, Fran.
Well, within the senior team, I mean, that there's a problem with nearly everyone in there, really, but predominantly with one particular, Brian. Brian, I feel, well, for one thing, I feel that he's lost the respect of the rest of the team. Most of our work was day-to-day firefighting. Nearly everyone in the school was working one level below the level that they should have been working at. Problems were being passed up by classroom teachers before they'd even had an attempt at exploring any strategies.
Does the team in the generality act as Mr. and Ms. Fix-Its, sorting things out for people and not being strategic enough? Is that how things are?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
And what about you? I mean, do you think you model that kind of behaviour yourself? I mean, are you a Ms. Fix-It for the school, or do you try and stand back a bit and take more of a strategic overview?
Oh, that's interesting. No, well, I suppose what I'm doing is the same thing, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do so.
Thought of that. But no, but people are coming to me with things, and I partly because I don't feel the confidence in the people around me that I see them not fixing things, or rather. Yes.
I'm interested in something you said earlier, though. If I just explore that with you, you were suggesting that is what you like, and you said something about because I don't trust the people around me to do what I want. I think you said something like that.
Yeah.
Let's try and explore that a little bit about what you would like the people around you to be able to do. How would you like to see them behaving?
I think I'd like them to take more responsibility for the problems that they've actually got before passing them on, which is what's happening at the moment.
And that's at middle leader level, up to the leadership team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There were lots of other things that came out of the conversations with my coach. Like, I had been talking to the wrong people about the wrong things. The people I'd been talking to weren't prepared to challenge. They were uncomfortable with holding people to account. So all I was getting from them was appeasement. And you won't get quality unless you challenge people.
Before next time then, Fran, let's keep it very simple and focused, because the issue for me has always been that, do you remember that phrase we used 2 or 3 sessions ago about thinking strategically and acting tactically? I'm not so sure that you're still thinking as strategically as you might. So maybe between now and the next time, all we work on is having you give yourself feedback about Brian.
Yeah.
You know, so that you just look very closely at how you're responding to him, how he's responding to other people, and just see whether there's a pattern in that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That would be a useful way to go, and then we can think about whether there is a pattern that's getting in the way, which we could of course then use when we're working with the team as a whole.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No, that'd be great.
That sounds all right, doesn't it?
Over the 2 years, my coach has helped me unpick a number of management issues. Like there was one particular block I couldn't get through. I couldn't understand the emotional aspect of why several people in my team couldn't engage in the way I wanted them to.
Okay, Fran, we agreed last time that we were just going to focus in on Brian and for you just to see just how he is operating in the school, how he's relating to you and the rest of staff. I'm really intrigued to find out what you've noticed.
Well, the main thing I've noticed really is that there's an awful lot of avoidance there.
Have there been people that he's avoided confronting over certain issues?
Oh, absolutely. He avoids confronting just about everybody, and it is causing a sort of. I think he is sort of causing a blockage within the sort of team as a whole.
Are you saying that as a result of him not
Yeah.
challenging, if
Yes.
you will, avoiding confrontation, people are kind of giving him space and not doing it themselves?
Yeah.
It becomes infectious, as I said, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That's exactly what's happening. Yes. Yeah.
This is interesting. Do you know what it's reminding me of? It's reminding me of that conversation we had a little while ago about the stuff that you're doing with your Key Stage 3 kids on emotional literacy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because if you think about it, what we're talking about here is levels of emotional literacy within the adult domain. And what I guess I'm thinking is, if what you're doing at Key Stage 3 with the kids is worth its salt, it pretty ought to be worth it doing with your leadership team, hadn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
track it back. What we're trying to do is to create a situation where you are running a school which trades in honesty, where people say what they feel. When things aren't working out, they say it. Where things are not working out for a member of staff in a classroom, you want them to come and seek help.
Yes.
You don't want them to say, no problem. Now, if Brian's modelling the no problem approach, that can be quite destructive, can't it, for the kind of school you want?
Yeah. Another technique he used was to get me to put myself into other people's shoes. He helped me turn the picture round and see things from another point of view. Another thing about coaching is that it brings things out from you. And although there are things that I'm not necessarily good at, I think I do have compassion for people and I can empathise. And coaching isn't about saying somebody else has got a good idea, so you better use it. It's about using the skills and knowledge that you have yourself.
But the big question I need to ask you, because of what you said earlier, is do you feel comfortable about talking about this whole notion of the emotionally literate school?
Personally, yes.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
aware that there is going to be resistance
Right.
from within the
Oh,
team
there
to
will
an
be.
extent,
Yeah.
and I feel a little apprehensive about that.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
feel quite sort of.
You're up for it.
I'm up for it. Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
the
definitely.
important thing, I think, is that you give that impression.
With the coaching, what has happened is that I now do believe that I am the right head for the school. Interestingly, those who were most critical of me in my darkest moments over the last 3 or 4 years have turned out to be my sort of staunchest allies when it comes to driving our agenda, which is the raising of achievement.